Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to show you how I made this fun DIY ring toss game that we've been playing all summer. I hope you enjoy. Okay, so once again I'm trying to use some scrap wood from my garage, and I have some 1x pieces of cedar left over from some other projects that I've done around the house. I have one thinner piece that's going to go on the top of the ring toss game that measures 4.5 inches in width. And then I have a wider piece that measures 7.25 inches in width. That will serve as the base of my ring toss game. The wider 7.25 inch piece of 1x cedar, I'm going to cut down to a measure of 12 inches in length. No real reason, I just thought that sounded like a good length. But this will serve as the base of my ring toss game. After cutting the base, I'm putting the thinner piece of 1x on the miter saw, and I'm going to cut this top piece to 24 inches in length. Again, no real reason, just what I decide to do lengthwise. You can always adjust these however you see fit. This wooden flagpole is also something that I found in my garage. I'm going to cut this to 12 inches in length and use this as a connector between the base piece and the top piece of my ring toss game. And just because it's DIY doesn't mean that it all has to look like it's DIY. So I'm going to throw my miter saw on a 30-degree bevel cut here and bevel each one of these sides, which basically means I'm just putting an angle cut on each side of this base piece. You can see the one angle cut there, and then I'll flip the board around and repeat the same process on the other side. And repeating that process on all four sides, you can see it just gives the base of this a much cleaner and finished look with very little effort, very little carpentry skills, something that any beginner woodworker DIYer could do. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure I do the same thing to the top piece of this game as well, just so that way it matches. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is attach those three pieces together, the base to the flagpole to the top. And I got my flat bits here, and this is the 1 3/8 size that I found out matches perfectly to my flagpole. And I will go ahead and include a link to all of these tools and all of these things that I'm using in the video in the description below. So go ahead and check that out in case you want to buy any of these and include them in your workshop at home. Okay, I have the top piece of the game, and I'm finding the center point on this board. And then I'm going to take my flat bit, line it up perfectly with the center point, and drill out a nice little pocket for the flagpole to sit inside of. Be very careful that you do not go too deep or too shallow. Go slow with this. Take your time. You do not have to be in a rush for this part of the project. I went ahead and found the center point of my base piece as well, and I'm going to do the same process of using this flat bit to drill out a nice little pocket that the flagpole piece will sit inside of once again. And you can kind of see how this will take shape eventually and come together. Now, before attaching it all together, I'm actually going to drill out 5 more little pocket-sized holes, not all the way through the top of this piece, just about the same depth as I did before. You can see I've marked these out 3 3/4 inches apart from one another. That was just, when I put my tape measure on, that's the length that made sense for them to be evenly spaced apart. And I'm going to take the same size flat bit and drill out these little pockets. This top part of the game, these 5 little spots will be used to mark how well you're doing when you're competing against somebody on the other side. And we'll get to that more later when we see the project all put together and finished. Okay, and after those 5 are drilled out, it's finally time to assemble this game and to have it actually start taking shape and looking like it's supposed to look. Make sure you always pre-drill before screwing these pieces together and use some wood glue just for some added strength. Remember, this is going to be a game that people are going to be playing with. They're going to be getting excited. It's going to be getting knocked into, knocked over, and you want it to be as sturdy as possible. After letting the glue dry, I will then go ahead and flip this over and add a screw into the bottom here that will connect the flagpole piece to the base of the game. I went ahead and did the same thing on the top, again with the wood glue first, pre-drilling the hole and screwing it together. And then I added wood putty wherever I had holes from drilling or cracks that might have split in the wood. Then I'm going to take some sandpaper and sand, especially this flagpole, to get some of that old stain off, just so that way it accepts the new stain just the way I want it to. Okay, it's finally time to stain this thing. To do this, I'm going to use a walnut gel stain. The reason I'm using a gel stain is because this game is standing vertical, and the gel stain is thicker application and will not run off this vertical flagpole, especially as much as a traditional stain would. The gel stain goes on really easily. It also covers really well and has even application throughout. And while you're watching me stain this, go ahead and hit that like button below if you have not done so already. And I always appreciate people who subscribe to my channel. And here's what it looks like when it's all stained. To put the game together, I'm using a couple different types of hooks and these large rings. Now these are the best sized rings I could find, along with some braided rope. Let me know in the comments below if you think that I should be using a smaller type of ring in the game. Again, that's just the best I could find. Before I drill in to this flagpole, what I'm going to do is add a piece of painter's tape. That's just going to be a quick and easy way for me to make sure that I'm drilling at the same height on both sides. It's an easy trick that you can use at home. Doesn't take a lot of effort, and it's just a heck of a lot easier than measuring on both sides. I'm just going to drill right at the top part of this tape on both sides. These are pilot holes for my first set of hooks. After I drill those 2 holes out, I simply can remove the painter's tape and no harm is done to the game. And then just hand screw in these hooks. The open hooks are going to be used for this part. This is where the ring will be hooking onto, hopefully, if you're any good at the game. Just hand tighten these. Do not over tighten them. The absolute last thing we want to have happen is for us to over tighten these hooks and for this wood to crack at this point in the game. So just be gentle. Okay, the 2 eye hooks are going to go on the underside of this top piece. And again, I'm going to use the painter tape trick to quickly and efficiently measure out how far in I want these eye hooks to be from the edge. Put your painter's tape, line it up with the outside edge, and we're going to be drilling in on the other edge of the painter's tape. Doesn't have to be that far in, can be further out, doesn't matter, but at least they're exactly equidistant or equally far apart from the cylinder stand in the middle. Again, just hand tighten these eye bolts in. We do not want to crack the wood. Also on those pilot holes, make sure you're not drilling all the way through that top piece and we're not creating any new holes coming out of the top. Okay, it's been a long time since I've been a Boy Scout, but I still remember a knot here or there. So I'm going to take this braided rope and just create what I believe would be a pretty strong knot around this ring. You can go ahead and slow this video down if you need to, if you want to create a knot like mine. I do recommend using a braided rope like this one, just because it's going to hold up over time. I plan on this game being used quite a bit this summer and for summers to come. So I want a really solid knot that is going to withstand the test of time. And that's what I'm creating here. Go ahead and take that ring, hook it onto the open hook, and thread the other side of the braided string through the eye hook. Then you want to create a second knot at the top. Make sure this string is pulled tight before you create the knot. And then, of course, burn both ends, just so that way you don't have any fraying occurring as you're playing the game. Okay, once you do that to both sides, you can go ahead and start playing this game. This is the kid or family version of the game. I ended up cutting another little peg off that flagpole. And every time you get it to actually hook, you're going to move the peg towards you. If you get to your side first, you're the winner. There's also an adult version of this that you can play with a little red solo cup maybe at the top. And when you hook it, you're going to actually pass that drink to your opponent. So there's lots of fun ways to play this game. That's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button. And I always appreciate people subscribing to my channel.